say about this?
Milwaukee County Circuit Judge Hannah Dugan seen here leaving court after being arrested by the FBI.
She goes out in the hallway, screams at the immigration officers. She's furious, visibly shaken, upset, sends them off to talk to the chief judge. She comes back in the courtroom. You're not going to believe this. Takes the defendant and the defense attorney back in her chambers, takes them out a private exit and tells them to leave.
Ain't nothing changed, nothing new here to see. This ain't nothing but some political maneuvering. America. Welcome to the eulogy, eat it up. It's called political buffoonery.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome to This Week in DUMBmocracy, where we showcase some of the dumbest newsmakers of the week. Sometimes in our everyday lives, we have to swear an oath to tell the truth on things, whether it be your tax returns when you file them, or some other official document where you're giving responses that you have to be truthful, or in more extreme examples, when you're on the stand in some court proceeding, whether federal, state, criminal, civil, whatever, and you have to raise that right hand to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you. But what happens when you break that oath? Well, in your everyday life, it may be a fine or some other penalty. In more extreme examples, it could be a charge of perjury if you're knowingly breaking that oath. Or in the case of those who swear to an oath of office, the penalties can be greater. Meet Whiconsin County Court Judge Hannah Dugan, who has been arrested for breaking that oath in the form of obstructing federal agents, ICE officers, and concealment in preventing an arrest of an illegal migrant. Pretty serious charges against a pretty serious high-up official. And of course, that leads to not only legal opinions, but political opinions. And what we're seeing in those political opinions is a test of the Democrat motto from throughout 2024, and even before that, going back to 2020, and probably even before that, going back to 2016, saying how no one is above the law.
The idea that no person is above the law is a bedrock principle of American justice.
No man is above the law, no matter what the crime.
And I agree with you. No man is above the law, and no person is above the law.
No man is above the law.
Nobody is above the law.
No one is above the law.
Well, that's being put to the test for sure, because now Judge Dugan, who is a Democrat, by the way, is experiencing what that statement means firsthand. And Democrats are sort of backing away from that old canard that they've been talking about for over a decade. So in this video, we're going to look into these charges, the facts and circumstances of the sworn allegations against Judge Dugan, and also the political fallout of all this, particularly focusing on the hypocritical nature of the media and the left in response to this arrest. But before we do all that, I'm going to ask you guys to please subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of the shows. And if you like what you're seeing here in this or any other video on the channel, smash that thumbs up button, like, comment, share the show with your friends, all that really, really good stuff, because all that's going to help this channel grow via the YouTube algorithm. As always, gang, thank you so much for all that you do to help grow the channel. And if you are one of our budding buffoonologists out there, just a quick reminder to you that voting is still open for Buffoon of the Week. You can check out Buffoonology 101 that aired last Friday to see why we nominated Senator Elizabeth Warren and Representative Nancy Mace. We already have record numbers coming out to vote. You can be one of them too. Check out all the polls at buffoonoftheweek.com, right here on YouTube and also on X.
This guy is a grifter.
Now that we got all the grift out of the way, let's get into this video and explore the facts and circumstances surrounding this high-profile arrest and how politically it is charging up both sides of the aisle.
A sitting state court judge is facing federal charges and possibly years in prison in what critics are saying is a major escalation in the Trump administration's effort to pressure officials to assist in deportation efforts. Judge?
Now, I want you to remember a phrase that this reporter is using, attributing to critics that the tactics that ICE is using now in this particular case represent an escalation in pressure on these immigration issues. Remember that for later. We're going to come back to it in a moment. Remember, critics are saying it's an escalation. Critics.
Anything to say about this?
Milwaukee County Circuit Judge Hannah Dugan seen here leaving court after being arrested by the FBI. Dugan faces multiple charges for allegedly obstructing ICE agents trying to arrest an undocumented immigrant. According to a newly unsealed indictment on April 18th, Dugan was visibly upset and had a confrontational, angry demeanor when she and another judge confronted a group of federal agents that had come to her courthouse to arrest Eduardo Flores-Ruiz, an undocumented Mexican citizen who was in court to face misdemeanor domestic violence charges. Agents said she told them to go to see the chief judge of the courthouse and went back to her courtroom where Judge Dugan then escorted Flores-Ruiz and his counsel out of the courtroom through a jury door.
She snuck out an illegal immigrant and his counsel through a non-public route in the courthouse. That's brazen as hell, isn't it? I can't believe that there's so much controversy over this judge's arrest. This certainly seems like what those charges are. It seems like she's interfering with ICE, and it certainly seems like she's concealing this Mr. Ruiz and his counsel from arrest. Let's continue on.
No justice. No.
Dugan's attorney saying in court she wholeheartedly protests the arrest and believes it was not made in the interest of public safety.
Well, let's talk about the interest of public safety for a moment here, shall we? Is it in the interest of public safety for a judge to secret someone away, not just someone away, an illegal immigrant, well, not just an illegal immigrant charged with domestic abuse, to secret him away from ICE officials who are looking to do their job and helping this man essentially escape? Think about that for a moment as we continue on here.
David, it's extremely rare for a judge to be charged with obstructing an immigration case. That Wisconsin judge is vowing to fight the charges, but David, if convicted, she faces up to 6 years in prison.
And that's a pretty serious penalty. Now, I want to come back to the whole notion of critics of the Trump administration are saying this represents an escalation in activity. My dear friends, it is not necessarily critics of the Trump administration saying this. It's the mainstream media saying this. As you see in this video from ex-user Western Lensman, who put together a compilation of different anchors on network news and cable news, all preaching from the same hymnal and using the same word, escalation.
We begin tonight with the escalation in the president's crackdown on illegal immigration.
Today's dramatic escalation in the Trump administration's conflict with judges.
The Trump administration signaling a major escalation in its deportation efforts.
Today, an escalation in the Trump administration's battle with the judiciary.
Tensions between local and federal authorities over President Trump's immigration crackdown escalated today.
We begin this hour with a major escalation of the Trump administration's crackdown on immigration.
We begin with what appears to be a major escalation in the Trump administration's deportation efforts.
And what is a major escalation in the battle here in D.C. over immigration and deportation.
This feels like an insane and reckless escalation from the Trump administration arresting a judge. I will tell you, you are not alone.
So you see, the term critic is really just synonymous with mainstream media mouthpieces. They don't even bother to hide it anymore. Seeing that clip from Western Lensman on X, and shout out to him for putting that all together, it leads me to want to find more primary source authority for the basis of this arrest and also some more of the facts and circumstances around it. The closest I can find is this interview on Fox News with Attorney General Pam Bondi, further explaining the rationale behind this arrest.
So rare for victims to want to cooperate. They wanted to cooperate. They were sitting in the courtroom with the state prosecutor. The judge learns that ICE was outside to get the guy because he had been deported in 2013, came back in our country, commits these crimes, charged with committing these crimes, victims in court. Judge finds out. She goes out in the hallway, screams at the immigration officers. She's furious, visibly shaken, upset, sends them off to talk to the chief judge. She comes back in the courtroom, you're not going to believe this, takes the defendant and the defense attorney back in her chambers, takes them out a private exit and tells them to leave.
So we got a little bit more information than CBS was willing to give us there, right? We find out that this person had already been deported once and returned in 2013, that the victim of the alleged domestic abuse was in the courtroom waiting for justice, and that all this other stuff happened with the judge being very angry and secreting out the accused illegal immigrant.
Wow, you couldn't make this stuff up.
This ended up in a foot chase in public sight. It says here a foot chase ensued. The agents, and this was a DEA agent and an FBI agent, pursued Flores-Ruiz for the entire length of the courthouse, ultimately apprehended him near the intersection of West State Street.
Way to bury the lead.
Wow. So in releasing this illegal immigrant accused of domestic violence, it caused a public disturbance to the point where DEA and FBI agents had to chase him down. This could have ended up in tragedy. Imagine if there wasn't more disciplined officers out here or a civilian interfered. We could have been looking at a real tragedy for an American citizen here. That's scary as hell to think about, isn't it?
Street. So the judge apparently has created a situation here where you have a public foot chase. And we all know that, well, sometimes they can come off without incident. They can also turn into very dangerous situations.
John, that's exactly right. She put the lives of our law enforcement officers at risk. She put the lives of citizens at risk. A street chase, which is absurd that had to happen. But yes, she put a lot of people in danger.
Ain't that some crazy shit?
Certainly. It seems to me that there was enough probable cause to swear out the warrant based upon the facts alleged in the CBS coverage and confirmed by Pam Bondi that John Roberts was reading from. So I think there's a case here to go forward with. But let me give just a little disclaimer to cover my ass here. The judge is innocent until proven guilty. There has to be a trial. There has to be evidence exchanged. There's going to be motions to suppress certain evidence, I assume. And it's all got to play out in a federal courthouse. Let it play out, and let's not speculate on the opinions of guilt or innocence at this point.
Everybody got that?
But what we can speculate about is the political reaction from Democrats to this news, which we're going to do after the break. Like what you see so far? Go ahead and smash that thumbs up button. Also, leave us a comment and tell us what you're thinking. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another show. To start us off on the political analysis of what happened with Judge Dugan, we're going to start out with the mayor of Milwaukee. His name is Cavalier Johnson.
What happened here was just showboating. They're just trying to have this show of force, and in the process of doing this in a courthouse where people need to go for court proceedings, they're scaring people away from participating in the process. So if they are witness to a crime or something of the sort, they're not going to go and participate, and that makes our community less safe.
So the issue is with how the arrest happened, not necessarily that there was an investigation.
Again, I don't know all the things that happened there, but I'm saying that the way that they went about this, in this ham-handed, haphazard way that this administration has been doing since day one, it's driving people away, or has potential to drive people away from participating in court proceedings, which makes our community less safe. I want people to go to court. I want people to have their day in court. I want people to hold folks accountable in our judicial system, but the actions of this administration are driving people away from doing that, and that's not good for public safety in Milwaukee.
So, what? Mayor Johnson is trying to say that having ICE agents around in courthouses and having a presence and making this arrest more public than the average garden variety arrest would have been normally in previous administrations is a danger to people coming forward to report crimes? What about the fact that they're apprehending a criminal? I mean, what's more important? What's the more important value here? To get criminals off the streets, or to create an environment that's so touchy and feely that people come forward to come out of the shadows, I guess is what he's trying to say and what he's trying to intimate, in order to report crimes? They're obviously competing interests, and I appreciate that. However, when there's an opportunity to get a criminal off the street, an identified criminal, an identified illegal immigrant who had been deported in the past, who has been charged with domestic abuse, I think it's fair game for ICE, DEA, and FBI, whatever alphabet agency you want to talk about, to go and apprehend that criminal. Now, the judge may not like that because of the, as the mayor said here, the ham-fisted way it's being done. Okay, but it's getting done. We're not having judges sneaking criminals out the back door. Oh, wait, no, we are. I guess that is happening in this particular case because I showed up. But would this judge have just released this alleged domestic abuser back into the population, maybe a small amount of bail? Is that justice? What about the justice for the victims of crimes by these illegal immigrants, like the people who showed up for this domestic abuse case? Are you saying that they won't show up because this person is an illegal immigrant, or maybe they are? Well, if you're here illegally, that means you don't really have regard for the law anyway when you first enter here. So why would it be any different going forward if they're staying in the shadows? The answer would be, it's because these sanctuary cities and these sanctuary jurisdictions have created a permissive environment for people to act with disregard for the law, to just be able to flout their presence in these places and feel totally safe in their own skin that there would be no consequences to their actions. Well, apparently Mayor Johnson doesn't like consequences, because that is exactly what ICE and the Trump administration is bringing to the population currently.
See, as you can see, the more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out.
Do you believe this man should be deported?
I'm sorry?
Do you believe this man should be deported?
I don't know any information about the man. I'm talking specifically about the Trump administration's actions as it relates to this.
So he has no opinion about the judge's case and what she allegedly did. He has no opinion about whether or not this person who came here illegally after being deported should be deported again. He only has bad things to say about the orange man in the presidency. Surprise, surprise. This appears to be another one of those talking points from the left when it comes to the facts and circumstances of this arrest, that they're not really talking about the merits of the case itself. They're talking about, well, they could have handled it better with the arrest instead of making such a big show of it. Scott Jennings had a response to this narrative on CNN.
It's an embarrassment.
Let me just respond to something
you
said,
go ahead.
which is that you said, well, you got to worry about the impact on the community.
Yes.
The president and the Justice Department and his people have to worry about the impact of illegal immigration on the country, because nobody's been worried about that for years. And the reason this is important is because this is one of Donald Trump's biggest criminal justice priorities. And frankly, it's one of the American people's biggest priorities to control this. And you know well, there are people all over towns, all over this country who have been working overtime to try to stop him from executing on this agenda. If she turns out to be one of them, a spectacle is warranted so other people will stop doing it.
I appreciate
it. Let me tell you what offends me.
We really gotta go.
Is that there are people and one political party in this country dedicated to re-importing illegal aliens hand over fist, and it is outrageous.
Now, did Scott Jennings go a little too far there? I don't think so. I think that there is public utility in some of these spectacles, as they're calling it at this point. It sends a message. It sends a message that there is indeed a new sheriff in town. There are rules to be followed. There are laws to be followed. And if you don't follow them, even you, a member of government, a member of the judiciary, even you are not above those laws and those rules. It's kind of a refrain that we heard about President Trump and his actions all throughout the government for almost a decade now, probably close to a decade now, how no one is above the law. Take a look at this comparison that was created by, I think it's at Maze Moore on X. Look at this side by side of Andrew Weissman when he was talking about Trump versus Andrew Weissman talking about Judge Dugan.
this is not selective prosecution, that this is not somebody who's singled out, that he is being treated just like anyone else. That is what it means to have a rule of law. That is what the Justice Department is really signaling and messaging here, is that everyone will be treated, as Merrick Garland has said, as equally in this country. This is really a great day for America. So there has been a violation here that we know for sure, and it is not the judge. Right, exactly. You don't do it. Even if you thought that there was a ground for doing this, the judgment call that you thought that this is the case to bring, it tells you everything. There is no adult in the room who would have said, "Are you kidding me? Why would you possibly do this?" And the answer is because we want to send a signal to the judiciary, and that's what you shouldn't be doing.
Are you starting to get it now? It seems to me that Democrats and supporters of Judge Hannah Dugan, they don't want your eye on the ball. They don't want your eye on the charges. They don't want your eye on the facts and circumstances concerning the illegal immigrant accused of domestic abuse that she secreted away from federal agents. They don't want you to know about the chase in the middle of the streets that resulted from Judge Dugan's actions. They want you focused on the politics, the optics of it all. They want you focused on how Orange Man is bad because he's making a spectacle of this arrest. Meanwhile, what were Democrats doing throughout 2024 if not making a spectacle of all of the arrests and all of the trials that Donald Trump had to battle through on his way to regaining the White House?
He has to be held accountable. He's not above the law.
No one's above the law. Either that nor any other title puts you above the rule of law.
No one is truly above the law.
They're not above the law. Nobody is above the law.
Well, that no one is above the law, which is foundational.
No one is above the law, even a former president.
We have one set of laws in this country, and they apply to everyone.
No one is above the law.
The law is the law, and no one should be above it.
And yes, nobody is above the law.
No one is above the law.
No one else is above the law, including a president.
Nobody is above the law. You can't have two justice systems in America. It has to be one justice system. And anybody who breaks the law should be held accountable.
And that no one is above the law.
No one is above the law, and our president is not above the law.
Isn't that a bit hypocritical in and of itself? Of course it is. Isn't it a bit hypocritical for at one point to say critics are claiming that Trump is escalating things when those critics ended up being those mainstream media anchors and mouthpieces that you saw earlier? The facts of this case need to be our main focus. And in doing so, we need to say a couple of things. First thing is, Judge Dugan is innocent until proven guilty. The allegations have not been tested in court, and when they are, a jury of her peers will determine her fate. That's the story. That's everything you need to know. Everything else is colored bubbles of a partisan nature, whether it be Pam Bondi playing up the facts and circumstances and talking about illegal immigration and tamping down on it, or the left talking about how this arrest was completely unnecessary and is a further example of an abuse of power by Trump's administration. You need to clear out the noise, and that's sort of the point of this channel. We need to clear out the noise of partisanship when we look at facts and circumstances like this that we've been presented with. A highly controversial case involving the arrest of a sitting judge. It's a very serious thing going on in society, and unfortunately, it is a product of the ongoing brinksmanship in partisan politics. So anyway, that's just my opinion on all of this. I want to know what you guys think. Is this judge rightfully charged with this? Could the administration have handled it better? Or is it the case that there are some people that are above the law, like those judges who decide on legal matters?
Oh, hell no.
Let me know what you think in the comments, and we'll go into that together. And as always, like and share this video with your friends, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any other shows. Let's have a candid conversation about those two aspects, the legal case itself and the political crossfire going on resulting from this case. Let's talk about that together and discuss this video and any other shenanigans and buffoonery happening every day this week in DUMBmocracy.
All views and opinions expressed here are not necessarily of the mainstream media and may offend some listeners. It's called political buffoonery.